Uncle Ron and Stuff, part episode 10, part 11. More thoughts on thoughts. And I was thinking I had not addressed visualization and creativity. And I'm really out over my head on this one because I don't really know how to properly address either subject. But never stopped me before, so why should it now? Visualization, I think, is easier for me to deal with because I do visualize. I don't know, I think everybody does. I hope you can do it, but you can visualize something in your mind in some way, in your brain some way. And uh, visualization. I have read that athletes are good at visualization, unlike free throws and basketball. They can the Queen's Gambit, which was an interesting movie. I really liked it. It was about a lady, a girl, a woman who played chess at a very high level. And in this movie, it showed that she could lay in bed and visualize a chessboard and all the chess pieces and play games in her head. Not only could she keep the visualization going of the chessboard and the pieces, but she could also remember all where all the pieces were as she moved them around in her imaginary imagination, uh, moved their pieces. And I don't have it to that ability. Visualizing, I do not have it to that ability. But I can visualize stuff, and I think most people can visualize. I think um, that you can, like right now, I'm visualizing, my backyard, and I'm still trying to grade a certain area, and I can visualize my last look at it and where I needs to cut down on some and add on others. And I could see that. It's a memory, but it's also, totally could see it in my mind, a visualization. And it's been a helpful tool to me to solve various problems. If I said thinking is about questions and uh, how do I achieve or obtain a goal, then visualization is a tool that I use to help me do that. And I don't know, again, maybe it's a natural characteristic of brain development that you can see things in your mind. Um, uh, in a sense, as a visual field, inside your mind, your brain, and that's interesting. I don't know how does that work. You know, where does that work? How do you do that? Uh, don't know. Got any ideas how that works? How that's supposed to work? Throwing it out there. I don't know. I know it's been helpful to be able to do it. Uh, that coupled with what are the consequences downstream is always combined if I'm working on something and doing something. I can visualize, okay, what is going to be the next step? What is, looking at it now, where do I have to go from here to get to there? And I can visualize, okay, well, if I do this, then I'll have to do that. And it's wrapped in the consequences of the goal that I'm trying to achieve. I use visualization and consequences to help me find a path of least resistance to the goal I'm trying to accomplish. Does that make sense in some fashion? Creativity. I don't know that I have a good definition of that term. I don't think I'm particularly creative. I will use the label on myself as being engineer, and my mind, my brain is really engineered, sort of dominated. I use the tools, the tricks that I was taught on how to approach a problem and solve a problem, and it involves, mathematics and reason. Reason's another one. What the hell is reason? You know, that varies significantly from individual to individual. What seems perfectly logical to me is not logical to another person at all. You know, um, throw it out there. It's we talk about abortion, and they go, "Well, it's my body, my right," and I can't disagree with that. But at some point in some time, I think that the fetus should be entitled to rights, some sort of right, and in a sense, a legal right. You say, well, what does the politicians have to do with telling me what I can and can't do with my body? They're not doing that. I think, from my perspective, it is logical and reasonable to give that infant, that fetus, some sort of legal status. Uh, and that's where, you know, people say abortion is wrong. You're killing an infant, and from that perspective, we recognize that killing at least other human beings, unless it's in a time of war, and then that's the Ten Commandments said, "Thou shalt not kill," and there was no qualifiers on that statement. Uh, I sort of think it meant other humans, but some people interpret that to mean kill, period, animals, anything. And that can be logically uh, reasoned, you know. Anyway, creativity, I don't know that there's a good definition. If I take um, a set of parts, pieces that are available to me, and I arrange them in some combination to make a new thing, or make a tool out of them, or anything like that. Is that being creative? See, I don't think that qualifies. That's just, if you created the tool, a brand new tool, okay. But to take existing parts and pieces, I think that's just engineering. Just rearranging. You know, if you had a picture and you want to make a puzzle, and you started cutting pieces and making a puzzle out of it, I think that would be creative. You could have different shapes to the puzzle, and now that you cut the one, you got to deal with another one. That may be creative in a sense. I don't think that's just simply engineering. Uh, but creativity is something else altogether, I think. And I don't know there's a real good definition of what being creative, uh, a common shared, everybody understands what that word means, or what the mental gymnastics up here that occur for you to be creative. There are books about it, how to be creative. And I don't, I think that's one of the outside of the box things where you have to look at things or think about things or something that are outside the normal realm of reality, or some concepts, the shared cultural uh, rules, limitations, those sorts of things. Certainly, abstractional paintings, when they first started appearing in the art world, were very creative. We were used to, at one time, art was just capturing, people sitting in chairs and so on. Since we didn't have cameras, you couldn't do it that way. So artists and painters would try to capture as realistically as possible the scene that they were looking at. like the sun breaking over on the horizon or something, and they would try to capture that. Uh, and from that sense, they were creative in that they used paints and whatever to capture what was in the real world using the tools they had at their hands. And you can say, well, that's an engineering issue, and yeah, I guess so. They had, pigments and paints and whatever, and somebody created canvas or they made their own canvas. Nonetheless, but then when abstractional art paintings started coming out, where it wasn't simply just, a reflection of a visual reality of some kind as everybody saw it, that was certainly creative. You saw something in a way that was different than commonly accepted. You know, that form of creativity comes to mind first in the form of art. But there's also creativity in other ways, and maybe it comes out of questions, and I've already dealt with questions and how important it is. But creativity. Let's take Einstein for example. Was he creative? I think he was. He looked at things in new ways. He yes, he had an education. He'd been taught, this and that. He knew this and that, and nonetheless, I think he thought about things that said, well, the answers I've been told for these things don't quite fit. It's not logical to me. It's not reasonable to me. And he started playing mind games. In fact, one of the interesting aspects about Einstein was he had these what do you call it? Mind puzzle. I think it's not the right term. You visualize yourself, standing by a train that's coming down the track, and then you put somebody on the train, and they're watching out the window, and you can see the guy standing beside the train as it moves along, and he's watching you, and you're watching him, and he would pose the question, like, well, are they both seeing each other at the same point in time? And you go, well, of course, Well, he questioned. Well, wait. He thought deeply about some things, and he used these simple. They're not simple, but he would use real world examples to convey to other people what had been thinking about and dilemmas that he got into with what we considered our current knowledge of physical laws or principles or things like that. Even gravity. Gravity had to be redefined when Einstein space and time. The idea of space. Space is just a definition. Space is just the void between things, right? That's what space is, you know. But no, space has actual properties. Now, to think that way, uh, that's creativity, but it's also deeper thinking. But creativity, he created a new concept, a new idea about things. He opened up a realm that no one had fallen into yet, or it occurred to them yet. And once he was in there with these visualizations that he came up of the people on the trains, and what if you throw a stick up in the air as the train moves along, and what's the relative velocity of that to the observer on the ground, and all these sorts of things like that, then he could use that with what he knew and what he thought were, and ran into dilemma. It didn't work, didn't jive. So he got outside of the box, and I think he got creative. He was, via questions and creativity. I don't know, like making pottery. Yeah, you're creative. You take a lump of clay and you make it into a whatever, and you can make it into anything you wish. Um, that's being creative. Now you can say, well, there's only so many ways you can make a pot, and that's true. But it is a form of creativity, and that it start with just a raw lump of clay, and with your hands you can mold it, shape it, whatever. Put a guitar in your hand and string combinations. I think that's being creative. You can try new combinations of notes, and there's a billion different variations of the theme involved there. That can be, and even though you didn't invent the strings, or it doesn't mean you can't, using those tools, come up with a whole new, like songs and a tune. You've come up with a different set of strummings that you've never heard before, and is you new and unique to you, and that's being creative. Um, it builds up on prior things, but all of a sudden you've tripped over into to a space that I don't know. You even think about it. It just happens, and I think creativity just does just sort of happen. I don't know that you can think your way into being creative. I think if you shove enough stuff in your head and give it free reign, let it mix and tumble like a rock tumbler. You put all this crap up in your head and let it tumble around, and whatever domain you want to talk about, if it's pottery or equations of space and time or anything else you can think of. If you let it tumble around long enough and whatever, I think then something may just pop out, and it might be creative and new. I don't think there's a way you can think yourself into being creative. You create the conditions perhaps, and then maybe when I have written poems and things like that, which I think are creative. Yeah, so an engineering point of view, it's just using words in some new combination. You can say, well, I didn't fabricate a language, and I didn't. I'm just using tools, words, but the combination of those words may not have ever existed before. So in that sense, it is creative. And usually those things, when I'm creative in terms of poetry or writing or something, I'm usually in a strange mood of some kind. I'm in some mindset. I don't know, moody, maybe depressed. I don't know. There's some sort of strength in there and some mechanism that allows me. It all of a sudden it's there, and I will use it to be creative in some domain. Sometimes it's guitar strumming. Sometimes it's writing down things. Sometimes it's trying to talk to other people and ask questions. And I, again, I think it just happens. And I don't know there's a formula. If you can come up with a formula for creativity so you have it on demand, I would certainly love to know what it is, and that would be helpful. A lot of books about how to be creative. I don't. Maybe there are tricks. Like I said, the rock tumbler. You throw all the stuff in there and you let it tumble around for long enough, and all of a sudden, pop! You're creative. Um, Visualizations. Do guitarists visualize a tune in their head before it comes out? I don't think so. I think it's auditory in nature. So auditory visualization, perhaps. Visualization and auditory go together. I had a friend once who said that he saw colors when he heard music. Now, it doesn't happen to me. Maybe it happens to you. The fact that one person, it occurs to them, it must happen in other people, right? It's not so definitely unique to one individual. Maybe we do have facets of our being that is unique to us. Never really occurred to me. That would be kind of freaky and weird, that we have a particular gift. And there's a lot of movies, where everybody's got special powers. It seems to be a common sort of theme, and a lot of movies now. And wouldn't it be cool if you had special kind of powers? Perhaps we do. Perhaps there are people who have special kind of powers, and they don't know what to do with it because nobody's ever talked about it. You have this power of, I don't know, whatever it is, and I mean, if you could, like special power, the fact that I can do jump shots and have the ball go in the hoop from 30 feet regularly, that's kind of a special power. I mean, practice, 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 practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. It makes permanent, by the way. That's what practice really does. It makes permanent. So you can't ever have enough practice. I don't care what it is. And I think there was a violinist one time, and he's 85 years old, and he still practices. And somebody said, "Well, why do you do that? You're already at the top of your game." And he said, "No, I really do hope to get better." He's still finding stuff. He's still finding that magic moment where creativity jumps out at him, or he is refining a technique, touch of the finger, a duration of length of something. I don't know about visualization or creativity. I think they're interesting areas for exploration. I know there are probably courses in colleges and in higher places of higher, and I suspect that ancient tribal cultures knew about both things in a way that we don't. It got lost over time because it wasn't written down. Maybe it was conveyed from person to person, and there were exercises that were provided and so on, but it didn't get written down, and maybe the secrets weren't shared. You weren't a member of that tribe, and they didn't tell you how to do this or that or whatever, and you may have special powers you don't even know about that you take for granted, but they are special and unique to you, and maybe in the area of visualization or creativity, either one. Some people are creative. They just are. Other people are not. I'm more of engineering mentality. I can take what's around me and I can make other stuff out of it. Uh, Maybe that's a gift. I don't know. I'm gifted with that, if you will. I think I practiced it enough times, and oftentimes things didn't work out like I wanted it to. But what the hell? I just do it again. You know, I don't. I don't have failures. I have learning experiences. I try this or that, it doesn't work. I'll just try something else. I think Edison was saying, after he got the filament and the electric light bulb to last long enough, and that was the challenge for him. He could make, I think he tried like, I don't know, some huge number, 10,000. It wasn't that many, it was exaggeration. But he tried various things, slicing a sliver off a piece of bamboo and run electric current through it to see how long it would last before it burnt through. And somebody said, well, what you think of all your failures? He said, no, I just learned things that didn't work. It wasn't a failure for him to, okay, you discover, well, that doesn't work. Okay, well, you could chalk that one off the list. And that only left 99,999 more to go through. So persistence, and it's not a failure. It's an experiment. I don't think we teach experiment enough in college or in high school or in education. Experiment. Experiment, experiment, experiment. Try this, try that. Sometimes, most times it may not work, but so what? You learned that didn't work. Now narrow down your choices and you can try something else. Uh, Visualization really helps as an experimental tool. You know, you can visualize the steps involved and lay it out in your head, and you can see, oh, well, wait a minute, if I do that, then I got this kind of problem to deal with. And you can think ahead, think of the consequences. You can visualize it. Perhaps when you throw all that crap in there and you've prepared and you've done it's an experimental thing in your head, then you start real well with a big spoon and pop goes the creativity. I don't know. I'm way out of my league on this. There are aspects of the brain and the mind that I find interesting, and if you have anything to add, I sure would appreciate it. You could give me a call back. I'm at, uh, Send me a dream. Send me a thought. Try to throw me something through the magic, emit a transmission wave out. You know, hold your hand a certain way, and I often will do that. It's like I'm trying to receive as much as I can, or project it, either way. I know this was episode 10. I think I don't know the part. I'll list it.